wanted to give you just a quick update on the hybrid cloud world and where we are. So, are people talking about Aruba? So we actually have been working quite a bit around the world. The biggest providers of our highest end public cloud are now certainly Verizon and CSC and Colt in London and around Europe. We're also working, obviously, in Italy to have a few services that run all of the same software. I think people know Aruba had a few availability issues.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that. Anyway, so we're happy to be working with them, I think in part because of availability, to provide a VMware-based service that they could begin to offer in the near future. Obviously, we're working with folks like Telecom Italia as well. No specific announcements today. But the idea is to make sure that Italian customers have the option to use a public cloud with the same security and availability and interfaces that they could create locally as well. So I am quite excited about that. It is very funny though. I spend time all around the world, and different countries have very, very different views of the public cloud. Most of Europe is really focused on the private cloud, almost all of Europe. But if you go to parts of South America or even parts of Asia, very much looking to a public cloud as well. So it just depends. And our goal is just to allow both of them to work and make them interoperable. So the other thing that we are spending time on right now is making sure that the management and the security model works across these. And I've been talking about this, actually I'm embarrassed to say I've been talking about this for about 7 years now. The notion that you would attach security policies to a virtual machine, and you should expect that the infrastructure enforces those policies wherever you're running. And 7 years ahead of time, but it's now beginning to work. So when you actually go to a self-service portal and you request a virtual machine in the future, one of two things will happen. Some companies will say, tell me what level of security you want for this. You know, do you want full firewalls? Do you want very tight virus detection? What sorts of things would you like in there? And then it will automatically create the virtual machine with that. But what more likely happens is that when IT sets up different virtual data centers, they will have security policies attached to them. So that if you're in the finance department and you request a virtual machine, it will always have certain levels of security in place. And if you're a developer, then you might not need as much security, so it will turn them off. So really think of us trying to make security attached to the virtual machine and something that you can't turn off. You shouldn't be able to turn off the firewalls or the virus detectors or anything like that. So very exciting part of this. And for any customer who really wants to have a set of applications that can run either place, I think the notion of having security that looks the same is going to be one of the most important aspects there. Okay, so we've talked for quite a while about infrastructure. Am I doing okay for time? About 30? Okay.
You have all the day.
It's a little hot here. So I want to talk about the next two areas, which, again, a lot of people don't cover as much as they do the core data center. But I want to give you a little flavor for them. So I'm going to go very quickly through how we see people writing applications, and then I'll talk about the fun stuff, which is how do we all use the applications as we head forward. So in the writing of applications, we really think of this as having 3 areas. Most people are out there today, most companies are running either .NET or Java applications. That's the most common way. Or if you're an older company, you have a lot of COBOL programs and much older applications that are out there. But there's a real problem as people head forward. There are all of these new things that you want from your applications. You want them working on your phone. You want them to be able to communicate with other services. So they need to be more service-oriented. Or in the case of COBOL, your developers are retiring. So you need to get away from the source code that you have. So for that reason, we think it's an important time where companies are beginning to think about really rewriting applications for the first time, in many cases, in 20, 30 years. But it's very hard to rewrite applications, especially ones that have been around and are core to the business. So we take customers through really looking at all of their applications, understanding what things you should just leave behind, and what things you should try to move forward. And then when you are moving forward, we try to talk about a couple of different ways you might want to. So I'm not going to go into this in detail, but really think about that as a top-level conversation for many CIOs. Is, how do I get rid of some of these applications? How can I move off of Unix or the mainframe where appropriate? And trying to give them an answer is what we do. So I'm going to talk about 2 ways that we're trying to modernize the applications. The first is for existing applications. And Has anyone, did anyone hear about our launch that we just did last week for vFabric Application Director? Two, okay. So it is very interesting because the people that we talk to with these products are not infrastructure people. They are definitely people that focus purely on applications. But what we're trying to do for the first time is simplify how you deploy applications when you know that you're running a virtualized data center. So what we do in this particular product, and I would definitely recommend you go to YouTube and see the video or look at it, it's really focused on how do you take a complex application and make it very easy to deploy. So a lot of the applications that we run have multiple tiers. They're almost always 3, 4, 5 virtual machines. And most of the time they have a web server, an app server, and then some database, maybe some caching in between. So what we do with this product is really take the notion of a blueprint, which is how you use something like Visio to draw up how all of the different tiers. Oh, that's nice. If I ask for coffee, do I get a coffee? Sorry. So what we're trying to do is allow you to create the logical topology of an application. So you literally drag and drop different pieces of software, just like Visio, and you connect them. And then what happens is that this actually gets stored as a database entry, as a blueprint, and then you can instantly deploy these very easily. And so the companies that are using this today have a lot of Java applications in general, and they actually have wanted to create these simple deployment models. So you press a button,